Hi all, good afternoon. This is Chris from ManageEngine New Zealand from Soft Solutions. Hi everyone. Thank you all for joining our Shield Virtual 2020 event, and appreciated your time and efforts to be part of this session. And I'm very sure that you guys are going to take a good amount of knowledge from our international speakers. And let me start off with the introduction. And there's a 2 days event, guys. So today we are going to cover the key elements of AD, hybrid way, and about the MFA. So let's start off. Hope you guys know what is, who's Zoho, what's ManageEngine, and it's a global brand for people who's not sure or not aware of ManageEngine or Zoho. Zoho is a parent company where we have 3 divisions. ManageEngine is what we are representing right now. It's a comprehensive IT services, IT management solutions. And there's 2 other divisions, WebNMS and Zoho as a suite. We call it as a operating system for business. So they have a lot of solutions. And what we do, I'm from Soft Solution, an exclusive distributor for ManageEngine solutions in New Zealand. So we do ensure our customers get the value for the solutions, and we work with your channel partners, your resellers, and make sure your solutions, ManageEngine solutions, are available to you, and you get the full potential. Full value out of the solution. That's our responsibility. And we are 100% channel focused and 100% Kiwi owned. Our director is Chris, and 100% committed to ensure that you get the right solution from ManageEngine toolset. And what's special? 10 out of 9 Fortune 100 companies fully reliant on our ManageEngine tools. And you guys can see that the number of customers, like 3 million plus users, IT users, and that shows us the accelerated growth from the Zoho or ManageEngine customers. And it's rapidly growing. What we have in New Zealand is about 750 plus customers, business customers, who are using our ManageEngine tool sets, and I've done more than 150 to close to 200 consulting workshops, training, and implementation. So feel free to reach out. We are always here to help. And let's move on. Don't get overwhelmed by the number of solutions, because that's how we work with other solutions in the market. There's about 90 plus, I would say, like 120 plus solutions that's available to best fit your IT service or comprehensive IT management. So what ManageEngine do? It's pretty much bringing IT together, and ManageEngine crafts IT management solutions to make sure your IT management becomes easier for your admins to use, and it's cost effective. We have customers with even 1-man band, 2-man band, small, medium business, or mid-segment, or even enterprise customers, a lot of government entities, crown entities, a lot of our government organization relying on the solutions, and a lot of big enterprise customers in New Zealand are using our tool sets, and I work closely with them, and we can enable the same for you. What we specialize, flagship solutions up here where you guys can see it, IT service management, where we have a help desk like a control and command. We have network management solutions where IT operations, alerting, remediation, incident management. And we have the AD, Active Directory solutions, that is evolved to a greater extent that can support the current requirement of the market. That includes customers who are adopting to cloud, who's going on cloud hybrid way, managing their cloud security, managing their on-premises and Azure environments. We have the endpoint management and security solution that gives a full protection to your vulnerable endpoints. With the current remote workforce in place, that's the key device that needs to be protected for any organization, to make sure your endpoints are protected and it's managed effectively. Then the IT security solutions, where we have a security incident and event management, or privileged identity and access management tools, and other vulnerability assessment or vulnerability management, device control, application control, and whatnot with IT security. We have it all covered and heavily reliant on machine learning and artificial intelligence because combating insider threats and external threats are pretty challenged. So the way we can be ahead of that is using our artificial intelligence and machine learning so we can prevent and protect our corporate confidential data. Then, not to mention about the cloud, a lot of customers, with the new normal COVID in place, a lot of customers started working remotely and started adopting to cloud rapidly. So likewise, ManageEngine focus is towards cloud. So you can manage your IT fully from the cloud. It's a SaaS-based, fully hosted by Zoho, and the data center is available in Australia for New Zealand customers, and there's quite a lot of customers already moved over. So we have fully IT management solutions in cloud. And analytics, again, works with artificial intelligence, where we can apply good insights, insightful reports by integrating this tool set with all the other solutions. And then we have the applications and server management solutions that's available both on premises and cloud. What you can do is all your mission critical production applications can be fully monitored, and it will avoid any sort of downtime and help being more proactive and productive and ensuring your mission critical servers are on a very high availability. That includes full stack monitoring, monitoring your database, monitoring any services. So it's a full stack monitoring solutions available with us. Hope this gives a good insight about ManageEngine and the solution, the 120 plus solutions that covers in one of these segmented portfolio. Sweet. And that's about the integrations element I need to talk, definitely, because that's how all the solutions interconnected and works with. So we have a service desk application that's called IT Service Management Tool that acts like a centralized hub, control and command, where the solution integrates tightly with all the other tool set where you guys can see it up here. So pretty much with the Active Directory AD Manager plus solution, you can manage your Windows Active Directory management and remoting, like user management, reset user passwords and stuff. And this can be achieved even from a request from a ticketing system. And not to mention, it's not just service desk. The reason being, all our solution comes with an API, which we can leverage and integrate that application with your other IT service management tools as well. So our application has a tight integration and API integration with any other third-party solutions and applications. You guys can see our Op Manager. What we can do is automating your incidents and remediation, managing your alarms, and Password Manager, mostly used by a lot of big organizations and financial institutions and insurance companies, big banks and stuff, and other forces. So they make sure your user privileged access is fully managed and first-in-class remote control, fully shadowed, and the way you can, share the resources, critical resources with a fine-grained control can be achieved. And we have the endpoint and 80 self-services, pretty much bringing down your 30% or 40% of your help desk calls can be easily achieved with the 80 self-service plus, where we are going to hear more about this from Sharada, our international speaker. And we have the application and Site 24/7. It's a cloud-based performance full stack monitoring tool where you can monitor your Docker, your cloud infrastructure. We also started supporting Kubernetes and other, the buzzwords, what's happening in the DevOps environment, as well as in the recent cloud adoption phase. So full stack can be monitored with our solution toolsets. And then finally, our analytics to report and take appropriate decisions accordingly with insightful reporting and alerting. Sweet. With this, I would like to highlight about our AD Manager and Service Desk Plus. So I believe this is going to be a biggest challenge, and I believe it might be a challenge in your organization as well, about user management, user automation, onboarding, offboarding, and user modification. You can make that work with multiple layers, multiple ownership. You can make that whole workflow seamless with our tool set integrating with each other. AD management solution has a tight integration with your HRMS database as well. So you can fully automate the process and you can replicate what you guys are doing manually. And the best part is it's multiple platforms supported and it's one go, and then it's get replicated in the other tool set. So we don't have to redo or rework in multiple control panels or control centers. Sweet, and that's bringing into the ManageEngine New Zealand team. So hope you guys might have spoken to me or to one of our team members. So I do take care of the solutions delivery part and ensure all customers are getting the best out of our tools. And we got Kenny, sales engineer, make sure customer gets the code on time via the reseller channel and facilitating with demos and stuff. And we got Drew reaching out to each and every customers and make sure that your engagement, your experience, customer experience with us are smooth and easy, and ensuring that you guys get the best out of it. The next comes our international speakers. Before getting into that, let's move on to the day one agenda. So introduction, we just finished it up, and what's going to happen is we are going to look in detail about managing AD and Office 365, the hybrid way, will be presented by Vivin, is an international speaker, and he has done, I would say, like n number of conferences and presentations across the global customers and facilitated, helped other global organizations to achieve the best out of our AD solutions toolset. And he's a technical evangelist, so all our speakers are technical evangelists. And we have modern MFA presented by Sharada, and she's going to talk in detail how we can apply the two-factor authentication towards the current security and we can be more proactive. And then it's going to be the question and answers. Please feel free to update your questions or anything in the chat, or we are happy to assist, and we have a session allocated to answer your questions, and we will get back to you in that part. Sweet, and this is about our international speakers, where you guys can see Vivin and Sharada are today's international speaker, where we have Sid and Harish tomorrow's speakers. So Vivin is going to present the hybrid way of Active Directory management in Office 365, and Sharada is going to give more insights about MFA. Over to you, Vivin. Thanks a lot.
All right. First things first, thank you very much, Chris, for the introduction. And I mean, you were precise. You introduced the whole portfolio. You managed to introduce the whole portfolio in less than 5 minutes, and that's a record by itself. So congrats for that. Yes, I hope my voice is loud and clear. Even before I move forward with the session, I just wanted to make sure that my voice is loud and clear and you're able to see the screen. So I'm just waiting for a couple of yeses from the attendees too. So I kindly request you to make use of the chat box and let me know whether everything is good to go. I'm just waiting for a couple of yeses. I see a few yeses and a few more. Fantastic. Thank you so very much. I think we are good to go. Okay. A disclaimer again, even before we start the session. I mean, due to the pandemic doing its rounds, most of us are working from home, and it's been 7 straight months since we are confined to the 4 walls. And you can see that from our background. So if you hear any lag in the audio, or if you face any issues with the video, do not worry. We have the slide deck and we'll have the recording sent to you. So it shouldn't be a problem, right? So you're not going to miss out on any content. And the second thing is, of course, you might hear my neighbor's dog barking anytime. So it's morning in India. So yeah, that could happen too. So just giving you a heads up. And the second thing is, just because we are working from home, we do not want too much bandwidth consumption for the video. So we'll be cutting the video feeds now, and then we'll just go on with the session, okay? So just a couple of seconds and we'll just cut the video feed. I'll still be with you with the deck, and you'll still be able to hear my voice. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot out your questions, okay, using the chat box. I'm just going to cut the video feed for a quick second. All right, I hope things are fine now. So let's get started with the session. The agenda is going to be pretty simple. We're going to be talking about 4 topics. I know that most of you have joined us here, our IT administrators or IT technicians. What that means is you might be using Active Directory as an identity repository, right? Or you have Office 365, or you're making use of Azure. So in either case, you have four things to do. One is you'll have to, do some important reports. You have plenty of reports in Azure that come out of the box, and then you have your PowerShell for your Azure, for your on-prem Active Directory. So I'm here to be discussing some important reports that I want you to do as administrators, no matter you're using your setup in a hybrid way or you're using just your on-prem AD, it doesn't matter. So I have some interesting reports for you. And the second topic is, how do you improve standardization? Now, when I talk about standardization, I'm talking about bringing in some sort of uniformity to your user management lifecycle, right? How do you onboard users? How do you offboard users, right? And how do you handle transfer in departments or transfer in job roles? And how do you bring some kind of standardization without actually elevating the rights of the user inappropriately? Number three is, since you are doing at least certain activities day in, day out, let's say you onboard users once every month, or you there's a new hire in a department probably once in every 2 weeks or something of that sort. How do you automate some of those important routines? How do you clean up your Active Directory? How do you clean up your Office 365, and how to do that in an automated manner? So that's the third topic. And the fourth and my favorite topic is delegation, right? Because it's not just the administrator's game anymore. So you have your technicians, you have your HR. So how do you actually delegate actions to other users in your infrastructure without actually delegating control or authority? So least privilege delegation model, that's what we're going to be discussing. So these are the four topics: reporting, bringing in standardization, automating important routines, and then delegating tasks instead of control or authority, right? Now, you might be wondering, hasn't Microsoft given us tools to perform all these? Why should Vivin, set up a session and talk about Active Directory management and Office 365 management in 2020? We already have the right tools given to us by Microsoft. The answer is yes, Microsoft has given us tools, but Microsoft has given us some powerful tools, right? So Microsoft has given us PowerShell, it has given us Active Directory users and computers, and for Office 365, you have the Office 365 Admin Center. If you had not realized so far, I'd like to give you, a piece of realization, if that's even a phrase. Okay, that's the Office 365 Admin Center is the first graphical user interface that Microsoft ever launched for the IT administrators. We do not have a graphical user interface for Active Directory users and computers, nor did we have one for the event viewer. The event viewer is something that holds all the source of important four vital W's, let's say who, what, when, and where. The answer for your 4 vital W's are right there on the event viewer, and we did not have a graphical user interface even for that, right? So despite Microsoft giving us some interesting tools, I really feel that there are certain challenges that are still present even in the year 2020. We are talking about Active Directory 20 years after its advent, which means the technology is almost 20 years old. And we still have some basic challenges that are not solved by Microsoft, right? This is by no means trying to belittle Microsoft or the tools that they have offered. I'm just trying to state the facts, okay? The number one challenge that I see with the tools that I showed to you, the previous slide, was the confirmation messages that you get from them aren't very helpful, okay? Let me actually do something to prove my point, okay? This is my Windows 2012 R2 server, and right now you have the Active Directory, right now you have the PowerShell module fired up. So let's assume that I'm trying to create 5 users with PowerShell, okay? Now, let's also assume that 4 of the users got created perfectly fine, all in the right department. They have the right Office 365 license. They have the right Exchange mailbox. They have the right group membership. They are in the right department, OU, and everything. But the 5th user failed for some reason, okay? And you're trying to troubleshoot that failure, okay? So let's see how PowerShell is helpful in actually troubleshooting failures. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to execute a sample script. Of course, the whole intent of the script is to fail so that we'll be able to know what is wrong and how to fix that. Okay, let's see whether Microsoft is actually helping us do that, or PowerShell is going to help us do that. Okay, so this is actually a script that went rogue or that went wrong. Okay, and I'm trying to troubleshoot something here. Now, if you take a closer look at the screen for a quick second, you'll be able to understand that I executed a PowerShell script and the script failed for some reason and the fifth user did not create it, but I have error messages, but these error messages aren't very helpful. Okay, it tells me that the syntax is wrong at line 2 character 2, I mean line 1 character 2, but it doesn't tell me what the right syntax is. That's the problem. Okay, so I mean, this is just to give you an idea of what, or this is just to prove what I'm trying to convey. The point that I'm trying to drive across is these tools are powerful, but when you have a failure or when you're trying to tweak something and that doesn't work, right, the chances of getting back on track without external help is very slim. Okay, that's why I really believe that we should be having a dedicated tool for managing AD or Office 365 or Exchange for that matter. Okay, and that's the #1 challenge that I feel. The confirmation messages aren't very helpful. The second one is consolidating information from multiple technology platforms like AD, Exchange, and Office 365. Now think about generating a report for a user who has his identity on all these 3 technology platforms. You are now going to be using 3 different tools. Okay, you have PowerShell for AD, you have the Exchange Management Console for Exchange, and then you have the Admin Center for Office 365. Okay, that's not very user friendly. So juggling between tools, it's not an administrator's thing. An administrator would want at least most of his tools under one roof. Okay? That's the favorite of most of the administrators. And the third thing is the ability to delegate such tools to non-technical users or non-admin users. Let's say, I mean, I've seen organizations, I mean, I've been doing this for almost 9 years. I've been talking to administrators across the globe through online and offline events. And I understand that they delegate some of the actions to the HR, the onboarding process, right? So they actually give the HR a tool. They ask the HR to initiate the user creation process as and when they recruit a new employee, which means there arises a need for delegating certain actions to other users. Okay, so now just think about delegating all these multiple tools, multiple technology tools to non-admin users, because that's something that you cannot overlook, because the learning curve involved and the time involved in the process is not something that you can overlook as an administrator. Okay, so with these challenges in place and with these challenges still relevant in the year 2020, we actually wanted to come up, in the sense, ManageEngine actually wanted to come up with a solution that could help administrators manage not just their on-prem AD, but also their Exchange, their Sky for Business platform, and also G Suite, and at the same time, Office 365, okay, all in one. And the name of the tool that we introduced in the market almost 15 years ago was AD Manager Plus. Okay, now I am going to be talking about AD Manager Plus for the next 30 to 45 minutes. Now, don't worry, even if you're not using AD Manager Plus, you're using another solution from another vendor, that's perfectly fine. The way that we have created this deck is, even if you're not a user of AD Manager Plus, you're using another solution, or you're using PowerShell, you're a fan of PowerShell, that's perfectly fine. The use cases can still be put to use in your infrastructure. That's the whole idea, okay? So I'll be talking about a few use cases with you AD Manager Plus. You can replace AD Manager Plus with any solution that you want. Now, please see to that you put to use some of these use cases. I'd be more than happy to see them in action in your infrastructure, right? Now, this is the graphical user interface of AD Manager Plus. From the looks of it, you now know that the application is capable of not just managing, but also reporting, delegating, implementing a business workflow, and automating some routine stuff, not just in AD, but also in Exchange and Office 365, okay? All right, let's get started with our topic. And the topic that we're going to be talking about for the next 30 minutes is something related to reports, automation, delegation, and bringing in standardization. The first topic is insightful queries for every Active Directory infrastructure, okay? All right. Now, the first and the most important report that I want you to do, because when I walk in for consultation to organizations, I have found that the administrators, really find this specific case interesting and useful. Okay. Now, what is that case? What is that report? Now, I want to find out today who has access to your domain controllers. Of course, all of us know that domain controllers are basically the keys to your kingdom. If I have access to your domain controller, I literally have control over your entire domain. Okay? Be it a single forest domain or a multi-forest domain, it's just a matter of seconds that I gain control over the entire infrastructure. Okay? So the first and the most important report to secure an Active Directory instance is to know who has access to your domain controllers. And there are certain groups in Active Directory that have the default ability, or that give you the default ability to log on to, your domain controllers. Okay, there are 6 specific groups. Okay, just give me a quick second here while I explain those groups. So the groups that I am referring to are the domain admins, the enterprise admins, the schema admins, and also you have groups like account operators and backup operators. Okay. Now, if you add me as a member to one of these groups, what happens in the backend is I gain access to your domain controllers. Okay. All right. So yeah. Sorry about that. So what I was referring to is when you actually add a user to a group, so let's say the domain admins or the schema admins group, it's really important to understand that they also gain access to your domain controllers, right? So what happens here is, you might be wondering, what's the big deal? If you add me to the enterprise admins group, what's the big deal? Okay. The problem is, if you give someone access to a domain controller, you're not just giving them access to the domain controller, but also they get access to certain other basic tools. And once again, basic tools that they can leverage to, make or to abuse your Active Directory infrastructure, for the lack of a better word. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to perform a small attack, assuming that you've already given me access to your domain controller by adding me to one of these groups. Not domain admins or enterprise admins. Let's say you give me access to the account operators, okay? And you do not realize the fact that you have added me to the account operators because it was a nested group membership, not direct, a group being a member of another group and that group being a member of another group. Let's say a complicated nesting that you have not noticed so far. And I'm now part of the account operators group. What can an account operator do with just access to, let's say, a tool like a 2012 R2 box and having access to basic tools? I'm just going to perform a small experiment. I'm just going to request you to bear with me for a couple of seconds while I make the switch.
All right, it's expected. Vivian is going to rejoin the session shortly. Team, do you guys have any specific questions or any specific details that you guys need to clarify with your AD management and any security element of it? We're more than happy. All right. To
I'm back.
Okay. Thanks, Vivian.
Things happen. So sorry. Not intentional. Blame it on technology. Okay. And all right. So yes, let me start where I left off from. Now, I was just talking about hacking Active Directory from an insider's perspective, okay? So we're going to perform a small experiment for, let's say, about 3 to 5 minutes. The whole intent of this exercise is not to show you how to hack an Active Directory instance, but to show you if we do not focus on the group membership, it's going to be causing a bit of a problem, okay? So we're just going to take control of a few things here. Okay, let me first start off with the basic exercise of compromising an Active Directory infrastructure. Okay, what are we going to do is, the first thing that we're going to do here is we are now going to try and compromise the Active Directory database, which is the ntfs.dit file. All of you know this, right? And the second file that we're going to compromise is the system file. I'll show you where the file is and what is in the file and all that. But the things that we'll have to keep in mind is we are going to attack an Active Directory installation. Having said that, we're going to perform this attack without getting detected, in the sense not leaving a major digital trail. And the second thing is I'm not going to be installing a third-party tool, because the whole point of this exercise is using Microsoft tools to actually hack Active Directory. And my attack is going to be an online and offline attack. So what I would do is I would just copy these two files. That's my online mode. After copying these two files, I would switch offline, because I don't want to be present online doing suspicious things, because my administrator would catch me. Okay, so let's try and do this, a small experiment to understand that if group memberships are not monitored, it could cause havoc to your Active Directory infrastructure. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly jump to my VM. This is my 2012 R2 box that I've created. And when you actually add me to the account operators group, you give me access to your domain controllers. Let's assume that this is a domain controller, right? And when you actually give me access to domain controller, you're not just giving me access to that box, you also give me access to tools like command prompt. Okay, now what can an insider do in order to compromise your Active Directory infrastructure without leaving much digital trail? Okay, I told you that we're going to compromise two files here. The first file as a target would be the ntfs.dit file. All of you know this, right? This is your Active Directory database. And this file has your user information. If you have 5,000 employees, let's say you're an administrator of a bank, okay? And you have 5,000 employees working for the bank. So you have information about all your 5,000 users right here in this file, okay? It includes your username. It also includes their password hashes. It does not have their actual passwords, but password hashes, okay? So where is this file present? Well, if you go to C drive, Windows, NTTS, inside the NTTS folder, you have this ntfs.dit file, okay? This is the first file that we need. I told you that this file has password hashes and not the actual passwords. So you need a key to unlock whatever is in the file. And that key is present in a different location. So if you go to C drive, Windows, System32, config, and system, okay, by logging onto a server, you would have the system file. Okay. Now this system file contains something called as key hives, or in simple terms, keys to unlock whatever is in there in the ntfs.dit file. Okay, so we need these two files. You might ask me, all right, why do you need command prompt to copy these two files? Why not just do a right click and then copy paste, right? So let's try and do a right click operation. Right click, copy. Let's try and paste this on my desktop. Okay, I'm just trying to paste the Active Directory database. So you have a file in use message. What that means is there is an operating system level encryption on the Active Directory database that you're trying to compromise. Okay, no matter how many times you try, you'll not be able to succeed because the file is still in use by the operating system. So the only way to gain access to the file is by taking the server offline. Now, when I take a server, especially a domain controller offline, you as administrators will be getting an SMS notification in your phone because you have monitoring systems, right? So I am now going to use command prompt and a utility called vssadmin to copy the Active Directory database and the system file. That's all I need to actually compromise any Active Directory system in the globe. Okay, so vssadmin, as you all know, is a command line utility. So this will help you take a shadow copy of any volume that you want without actually copying the physical volume. Okay, so vssadmin, I'm trying to create a shadow copy of the entire C drive first. Create shadow for the entire C drive. Okay, so successfully created shadow copy for the entire C drive. Now you'll have to notice something here. Now C drive in its shadow copy is represented as this. Okay, it's not represented as C:, so I'll have to replace C: with a shadow copy volume name that you see here moving forward. Okay, so I'm just trying to copy the first file. So copy is the command, and the file that I want is inside the NTTS folder, so I'll have to go to the NTTS folder. Okay, so I'm just going to replace C: with a shadow copy volume name of C:. Okay, All right, paste. And inside C drive, I need to go to the Windows folder, and inside the Windows folder, I have the Ntfs folder, and the file that I'm trying to compromise is the ntfs.dit file, which is nothing but your Active Directory database. Now, where do you want this file to be pasted? You can paste this file anywhere, but for the sake of this experiment, I'm just going to paste this file on my desktop. Okay, so C users Vivin-143, that's my username, and I want the file on my desktop. Okay, the file that was restricted earlier will now be available if the command is right. So I just want you to watch the screen for a quick second here. Especially I want you to watch this space, okay? Because when I tried to do a right-click copy-paste operation, it failed. But when I use a utility like VSS admin, using a basic tool like command prompt, right? It says one file copied, and there you have the Active Directory database, okay? And you'll have to repeat the same experiment. All you need to do is just change the path, the storage path to the system file, and then copy the system file, okay, which is right here. So C Windows System 32 config, and then you need to copy the system file and then paste it on your desktop. Now, once you have these two files in place, I've already done this experiment. This is actually a three-stage experiment. Stage number one is copying these two files, the ntfs.dit file and the system file. Stage number two is extracting whatever is in there, ntfs.dit file, using the system file that you have copied. And stage number three is cracking the password hashes, okay? So I'm just going to jump to stage number three directly, because the whole intent of this exercise is not to hack Active Directory, but to show you it can be done in less than 7 minutes, right? So I'm just going to jump to stage number three. Stage number three is to show you the password hashes that are there in this file, okay? I've already extracted the hashes for you to save time, right? So you see this? These are not user passwords, but these are user password hashes, okay? So if your password is password at 123, I'm joking, but if that's the case, probably your hash would look something like this, okay? If your password is, let's say, kiwi at 12345, and probably your password, the hash would look something like this. So now you have your password hash. You're just one step away from knowing what the user passwords are. Okay, so how do you actually crack these hashes? Well, open these hashes in a notepad, do a Control-A, Control-C, open up any free password hash cracker. Okay, I'm using crackstation.net. This is a free password hash cracker. Okay, and if at all you're interested in learning about hashing algorithms, how do they work, which one is stronger, what are its pros and cons, this is a very good place to start with, crackstation.net. Okay, so you can probably paste all your hashes here and then confirm that you are not a robot, right? And then hit crack hashes. And if the internet works, it does. So you have the hash right here. The algorithm that was used for hashing was SHA1, and you have the password of the user account right here. Okay, so I mean, excuse me for the strength of my password. This is just my demo environment, and that's why you have some lame passwords right here. So the whole idea here is to let you know that with just access to domain controller and a basic tool like command prompt, you would be able to compromise an Active Directory infrastructure in less than 10 minutes of your time. So that's why I really believe that the first place that we should be focusing on is understanding the group membership, okay? So understanding who's part of these 6 groups, or if you feel that there are other high privileged groups that you'd like to check for group nesting, please do that. It's not going to take you more than 5 minutes of your time. And I'm going to show you how to do this with AD Manager Plus, okay? So I am just going to open up AD Manager. This is AD Manager for you. So I have this reporting section. So I go to the reporting section, and in the reporting section, I have categories on my left, reports for users, passwords, groups, permission reports, security reports, compliance reports, all kinds of reports, both for your on-prem as well as for your Office 365. Okay? So the category that I'm interested in for this case for checking group membership, especially in a nested manner, is the group report section. and then I go to group detailed group members. Okay. Now, in the detailed group members, I can select all the 6 groups here. I just need to hit the plus sign and then keep adding all my high privileged groups, okay, enterprise admins, domain admins, or whatever. And then I need to look for nested members. So I'm not going to exclude nested members. The whole idea is to check for any inappropriate nesting, a group being a member of another group and that group being a member of another group. So we need to check for nesting, right? And the objects that I'm trying to fetch in my domain admins is I'm trying to see the users being part of domain admins, groups, computers, and contacts that have any contact with domain admins, okay? And after I generate the report should be complete in about a couple of seconds, and it's done. You would notice that you have 5 tabs here, okay? But the tab that we are most interested in is not the users tab, but the groups tab. The groups tab is going to tell you whether this domain admins is part of any other group, not just in a direct manner, but also in a nested manner, okay? So when I hit the groups tab, I see that there are 2 groups, the intern basic access group and the VPN access group that have contact with domain admins. Now what happens here is, let's assume that you add me to the intern basic access group, okay? Now from the naming convention, it's a very, very basic group, but you add me to this group, okay? Now, when you add me to this group, you're thinking that you have just given me access to this group, but through group nesting, you actually add me to domain admins, okay? That's a very risky modification if you have not noticed it, okay? That's why I really believe that you as administrator should probably generate these reports and see whether you have any inappropriate group nesting, not just first level of nesting, but 2-layer, 3-layer, or 4-layer of nestings, okay? It's really important to know all of these. And the arrow that you see right here will help you gain more insights on the objects that you have, added to the specific report. So for instance, you have at least 60+ attributes that you can add to one single report and gain information about which member was added, what is the information about, what are the details that you'd like to know about that specific user, okay? The company, information pertaining to exchange, the group membership, the account expiry time, the last logon time, so on and so forth, okay? So please keep in mind, the first report that I would like to share with you is the detailed group members report, okay? All right. Now, the second report that I wanted to share with you is something related to shared folders, okay? So we have something called shared folder, the concept of shared folders in Active Directory, and all of you know this, right? So I'm just going to quickly perform an experiment here. I have one such shared folder, okay? So if you just go to C drive, you can see I have something called corp data. And if you open up corp data, I have subfolders. I have spending 2020, and all kinds of information. Now, the problem with these shared folders, especially with the confidential ones, is you need to keep checking the permissions. You need to keep checking the ACLs, the ACEs, every now and then, okay? So I have this exercise that I suggest to administrators, okay? This exercise is a 2-step process. Step 1 is I want you to pick your top 10 folders and review the permissions on those folders. Now, when I say review permissions on those folders, I'm not just referring to the top folder, I'm also referring to its subfolders, okay? And if there are any inappropriate entries that are found in the review process, which is step 1, then I want you to think about step 2, okay? And cleanup, which is step 2, should be an effective and immediate process. So you should define who should have access to the folder if at all the folder is manipulated. And second, you should perform a complete permission whitewash. That is, you'll have to remove the inappropriate entries found in step 1 and then define who should have access immediately, okay? I'm just going to do that with the help of AD Manager Plus. I'm just going to review the permissions of corp data in about 2 minutes, okay? So corp data, that's the folder that I would like to target, okay? And according to me, corp data should only be accessible by a group called finance managers, because that's how I have defined my Active Directory permission setup, okay? I'm just going to check whether corp data is still accessible by finance managers, okay? So I Go to reports. I go to this specific category called Ntfs reports, and then I have something called permission for folders, right? I've already selected corp data here. I do not know whether corp data has 5 folders or 10 folders inside that folder. So what I'm going to do is I just go for all subfolders, okay? And then I hit generate. Now, after the report is complete, you have 2 tabs that show you the Ntfs permission and the share permission, okay? Now, I just want you to watch the screen for a quick second. So you get to know the permissions of the top folder, which is good. But if you keep scrolling down, you also get to know permissions about the subfolders, okay? You get to know permissions about the assets folder and also about the other folders, okay? You get to know who's the owner, is the permission inherited? And if it is inherited, if the inheritance is set to true or false, you get to know what the ACE type is, who the owner of the folder is, and also you get to know about controls like full access, modify, read, write, or read, just read access, okay? Now, from the looks of it, from the looks of this report, I see one glaring mistake here, okay? I want the finance managers to be able to access the group, but I also see that another administrator has by mistake added the everyone group as a part of corp data. I don't want this, okay? I want to perform a cleanup immediately. I'm not talking about just one folder, I'm talking about at least 20 folders. How do you clean up the permissions of 20 folders in one stretch? Well, let's try and do this. So again, I go to AD Manager. In order to manage something, I need to go to the Management tab. So I go to the Management tab right here. We are talking about file servers. So I go to the File Server Management section, and then I go to Modify Ntfs Permissions, okay? Now, in the Ntfs permission section, I'm going to select the folder that I'm trying to clean up, which is corp data, which is inside one of my file server. Corp data is right here, okay? Now, I can do 2 things, okay? I can define the group called finance managers here, select what level of permissions they should have, whether the permission should be applicable to that folder or the subfolders, whether it's an allow or a deny configuration, all kinds of stuff manually. Or I can simply copy permissions from one folder and paste it on corp data. Okay, how cool is that? Copying permissions from one folder and then pasting it on the other folder. Okay, so I just go to copy from folder, right? So if you had noticed, I have something called backup. Okay, so I have corp data, and just below that I have its backup. So what I'm about to do now is I'm going to copy permissions from the backup and paste it on the target folder, right? Select corp data backup. I would like to include the inherited permissions because we're not just talking about one folder, we're talking about multiple folders. I hit OK, and you have the permissions pasted right here. But I told you, you should also be removing the permissions on the folders in one shot, right? So how do you remove, or how do you perform a complete permission whitewash? Well, you have this, the second checkbox doing all the magic for you. Remove all existing permissions on the selected folder, which is corp data, and apply only the above ones, okay? So when I select this checkbox, and you can directly hit modify. Now, when you hit modify, the action is immediate, the permission is set on the folder, or you can actually have a preview, okay? You can just hit view all changes, and you have color codings that indicate the type of permission: existing, new, modified, or removed, okay? So after you understand the permission in its entirety for that specific folder, which is corp data, you can then go ahead and hit modify. So you can literally clean up an entire folder structure, an Ntfs folder structure, in less than 5 minutes of your time by understanding its permission and by cleaning up inappropriate entries from that. Okay, so this is report number 2 that I wanted to share with you. I hope you find both these reports informative. The first one was checking for inappropriate group membership. The second one was something to do with your confidential folders. Okay, just think about it. Just think about doing this exercise on your confidential folders, at least 5 of them, or pick your top 10 folders and then try and do this exercise. Okay, now let's talk about the second topic. Okay, I have a session for another 10 more minutes and then I'll wrap it up. So the second topic is I'm going to be talking about managing objects. Now, when I talk about managing objects, okay, I'm talking about the user management life cycle. I'm talking about creating users, modifying them, and at the end, you delete the user accounts or you disable them as and when they leave the organization, right? Now, we get that. I mean, when you have Active Directory as an identity repository, you actually put more data into Active Directory. You ingest or you inject more data to Active Directory. The more data you put into an identity repository, the more useful it becomes, okay? So bigger the data set, greater the insight. That's the rule. We get that. But the challenges with Active Directory especially is there are too many manual entries over the years, okay? You have administrators switching jobs, you have a new administrator, you have the HR taking part in the user onboarding process, you have the technicians modifying accounts. So what happens here is, in my experience, I've walked into hundreds of companies, and the first thing that they ask me to do is they ask me to perform a health check of the Active Directory. The first thing that I do is I start from the basic element, okay? I start from the users. So I start by checking users and user permissions. And some of the times, or let's say most of the times, I see that there are null values or there are inappropriate values for business critical Active Directory attributes, okay? For example, job titles not being updated, old locations haven't been removed, and then you have empty groups that are not removed and all kinds of misconfigurations in Active Directory. Now what happens is, as a result of all these manual entries, if you plan to integrate your Active Directory with a business application, let's say you have your IT service management tool and you're planning to integrate your Active Directory with the IT service management tool, the integration becomes tricky. The integration becomes really challenging because you do not have uniformity in your AD or Office 365, okay? Now the solution to that problem is you'll have to create a process of standardization, not just while provisioning accounts, but also while modifying them, and also while offboarding accounts. When you actually delete accounts, there has to be some sort of modification. There has to be some sort of, process in place. So I am going to show you a very effective method by which we are able to face this challenge, okay? Not just while creating accounts, but also while modifying and deleting accounts, okay? All right. Now, the first and the most important part of user management standardization is to introduce something called as a template. A template, as you all know, is a uniform framework, okay? So I am going to show you the features of a template inside of AD Manager Plus, and I'm going to be talking about 3 important features that any template should have. No matter what tool you're using, I really believe that these are the 3 features that you should be having for an onboarding template, okay? Number 1 is creation rules. Number 2 is enabling drag and drop. Number 3 is copy user attributes. I'll tell you what these features are in a short while. For that, I need to be opening up an actual template, and then I'll show you what these features are. Okay? I've already created one template for you, okay? So I go to the Management tab, and I quickly open up the user creation templates. And in the template section, I have a template dedicated for this session, which is the user creation -HR template. Okay. From the naming convention, you now understand that this is not the template for the administrator. This is a template for the HR. Okay. And that will also explain the reason why you see some of the fields highlighted and some of them grayed out. For example, you have the general tab highlighted, whereas the other tabs like exchange, contact are being grayed out, okay? Now in the general tab, the first name and the last name is highlighted, whereas the logon name is grayed out, okay? Because it's actually designed for a specific reason, and I'll tell you why, okay? Now, if you are going to delegate this template to the HR, okay, the template that you are going to be delegating to the HR or to the help desk technician needs to be really, really simple. Okay, you need to make the job of the HR or the help desk technician really simple, especially if you'd like to bring in standardization. Okay, whereas you as administrators can define the values in the template. Okay, you can just go about every field that you see right here. Okay, you can fill in all the details that you want in the general tab. You can go to the account tab. Let's assume that you're trying to create a template for the IT department. Okay, you can go to the account tab and then fill the right group membership for the IT users. If the IT user should belong to the IT staff group or the domain users group or the DHCP users group, you can just define those group membership here. You can define the user password, or you can even set the application to generate a random password whenever a new user is being created. Okay, all kinds of configuration that includes Office 365 configurations as well. Okay, you as an administrator can fill in all these values, and then what you can do is you can use this option called Enable Drag and Drop, which will help you customize the entire layout. Okay. So let's assume that you want the logon name to be hidden. Okay. What you can do is you can just maneuver your mouse over to this specific field and then make it interactive or make it silently active. You see this? You can edit a field, you can make a field silently active, you can even delete a field. Okay. Or if you'd like to include something onto the layout, all you need to do is just drag and drop. So the whole point of Enable Drag and Drop is customization. Okay. All kinds of configurations can be made. If you want the username to be in a specific format, yes, you'll be able to do that. You want the layout to handle duplicate entries, yes, we'll be able to handle that as well. Not just in your AD, but also in Office 365. Now, while creating an Office 365 account, one thing that we'll have to keep in mind is you'll also have to map the right licensing based on the job role, okay? E5 or E3 or whatever it is. Okay? So you can even define that using this template and simply use Enable Drag and Drop to hide the fields that you think are not relevant for the HR when you actually delegate this template to them. Okay? So this is feature number one. Feature number two is how do you build a template? Right? You can manually define the values here as an administrator, or you can simply copy user attributes from another user. Okay? Let's assume that you're trying to build a template for the IT department. So you just go to copy user attributes. You have all your users getting listed here. I have 91 user accounts, so all of them get listed here. I'm just going to pick a user belonging to the IT department. Okay? So I just type IT. All my IT users get listed here. And I can pick the right user to copy attributes from. Okay, I go to select attributes, and then I can copy any attribute that I want from that specific user and paste it on my template, right? So it becomes much more easier for me to create a template. And the third feature is creation rules. This is the favorite of most of the administrators, okay? Because one template can help you create accounts in multiple departments, okay? Let me show you how that works, okay? You have something called creation rules right here. So let me expand a rule and then I'll show you how this thing works. So when you expand a specific rule, every rule works based on a condition, okay? That's the first thing that we'll have to notice. So you'll have to define a condition in order to proceed with the rule. So I have two rules here. Okay? You can create any number of rules. You can use the add rule option and create any number of rules that you want. So rule number one is, if the title of the user is IT administrator, then I want certain values to be auto-assigned for that user account, okay? And that includes the group membership of the user, the title, the department, the manager, you name it, we have it under the assigned values section, okay? That's rule number one. So the rule number one and the condition is title should be IT administrator, okay? Please bear in mind, this is template for the IT department. Rule number two is, now we're going to create a different job role, which is not an IT admin. So the title now is not IT admin, it's going to be IT technician. So if the title is IT technician, then I want the user to be a member of certain other groups. Then I want the user to be created in a different OU, and I have a different manager, okay? So you can create as many rules as you want and then build a template, okay? So these are the three core features that I wanted to share with you. And you have a template not just for creating users, you also have a template for modifying them. You also have a template for, creating groups. You have a template for creating contacts. You even have a template for creating OUs, okay? We have templates for creating and modifying all these primary objects in Active Directory as well as in Office 365. So one template gets your provisioning process, your modification process, and your deprovisioning process in place. Okay. Now you might be wondering, well, template is okay because most of the tools in the market offer templates. Okay. What are the other benefits? Can this application integrate with other business applications? The answer is yes. Okay. AD Manager Plus as an Active Directory and Office 365 managing tool can integrate with multiple applications, okay, belonging to various sectors. So it can integrate with your HR tools, like let's say you have your Workday, you have Ultipro. It can integrate with people management software or solutions like Zoho People, Bamboo HR. It can integrate with IT service management tools like Service Desk, ServiceNow, Zendesk. It can also integrate with your databases. So let's say you have an SQL or Oracle database and with all the user information in it. The application can very well talk to these databases, get the input, and then perform any action that you want in AD Exchange or Office 365. Not just manually, but in an automated manner, okay? For example, this is how a user onboarding process works. So let's assume Peter is joining Department A, okay? And Ron is leaving Department A. So let's see how this chain works for Peter and Ron. So Peter is going to join Department A. The HR raises a ticket, okay, using Service Desk. If you're wondering what Service Desk is an IT service management offering from ManageEngine. Okay, this is a ticketing tool. Now, I told you that AD Manager Plus can integrate with ticketing tools or with service management tools. Okay, so your HR raises a request using the ticketing tool, and that ticket, the admin then, that ticket then moves on to the admin. The admin then creates a new user using the ticketing tool after the integration is complete, and the account is created in Active Directory, and then you have the user readily onboarded with all the properties, okay? For Exchange, Office 365, group membership, you name it, you have all the properties in place. Now, when a user is leaving the organization, the same thing, right? The HR in Service Desk raises a ticket to delete the user. The admin, using the same tool, which is Service Desk, processes the request and deletes the user. Now, the integration with AD Manager Plus effectively deletes the user account, not just from AD, but also from Exchange and also in Office 365. Okay. Now, this process is possible because of the integration that you're seeing on the screen. Okay. So after you integrate AD Manager Plus with an IT Service Desk tool like Service Desk Plus, your technicians, your help desk technicians get additional Active Directory management operations from within the console itself. Now, if you're using ServiceNow, your ServiceNow technicians get additional Active Directory management operations. Okay, so they need not log into a different tool to create users, to delete users, to reset password for users. Everything gets done in one console and all this is possible because of the integration of AD Manager Plus with the tools that I just mentioned. Okay, and the third topic is something related to automation. Okay, so we are almost nearing the end of the session, just 5 more minutes here, and then we have another interesting topic to discuss, which is something to do with multi-factor authentication and adaptive authentication. All right. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is, according to me, automation in theory. Okay. Now, this is a classic example for me how automation should work. In theory, everything is flawless. Okay. When you automate something, you want it to do a specific task, it exactly does that for you. Okay. But we as IT administrators know what automation is in reality. The next image that you're going to see on your screen or the next GIF is automation in reality. Okay. In reality, we as administrators know that there can be problems. Okay. There are chances for errors. When you actually write a PowerShell script for automating a specific action in Office 365, you might have seen this. Okay. You want it to do one thing and the script does exactly the opposite for some reason. Okay. So the point that I'm trying to drive here is when you automate a crucial action, there are chances for errors, and I want you to have the control switch in your hand. Okay, So when you disable an account, I want the automation to seek your approval. When you delete an account, I want the automation to behave in the exact same manner so that there are no chance for any errors. Now, AD Manager Plus can help you automate things in a very controlled manner. Now, what are some activities that you can automate with AD Manager Plus? Number one is you can initiate the process of user cleanup. Okay? For example, users that have not logged in for more than 6 months. Okay, how are you going to handle those accounts? Computers that have not authenticated for more than 6 months or 12 months in a row. Okay, groups without any members. I call them ghost groups. Okay, so you create a group, a security group, and you don't add any members to them, and the groups hang in there. Okay, so how are we going to handle such empty groups? And I've seen administrators create GPUs. Okay, I've been to infrastructures that have you know, 10s and 20 GPUs easily without any specific purpose. Okay, so I've seen GPUs created sometime in 2016 that have not been touched in 2019. Okay, so how are we going to handle such unused GPUs in an automated manner and at the same time in a very controlled manner? Now, AD Manager Plus, okay, you go to the automation tab, can help you all such routine tasks. It can help you automate the process of user onboarding. It can also help you with AD and Office 365 cleanup. It can do a lot more. It has at least 30 action items that you can automate in your AD and Office 365 infrastructure. Okay, so if you want to create a new automation for any new requirement, all you need to do is just go to create a new automation. Okay, and let's say I'm trying to disable accounts. Okay, so the task is disable users, and I want to disable inactive users. So I'm just going to search for inactive users here. Okay, I have inactive users, and I want users who are inactive for the last, let's say, 200 days to be disabled. And I can use all kinds of filters to refine my results, but I'm not going to do that for now. I just hit OK. Okay, and I want this automation to run on a monthly basis. So every month, let's say on the first of every month at a non-business hour, maybe let's say at 7 o'clock, I want this automation to run. Okay, and I want a notification to be enabled. I want a notification to be sent in the form of an SMS, in the form of an email to my administrators. Okay, I have notification templates for that. Now, if you would like to have the control switch in your hand, I told you that any automation that you create, especially for a crucial action, you should be able to control that. Okay. Now, the task that I'm about to do is I'm trying to disable inactive users that are not logged in for 200 days. But what if a user has suddenly joined your organization, the user has been on a long leave, and the user has suddenly joined your company, and the automation is about to disable the users? How would you stop that from happening? Well, just select this checkbox which reads Implement Business Workflow. Okay? When you select this checkbox, any automation that you schedule will not take place without your approval as an administrator. Okay? And if you're wondering how do you configure workflow, it's pretty simple. This workflow link right here takes you directly to the workflow tab. The workflow is pretty simple. It's a request and approve methodology. So you have a requester. Okay, this can be a manual, or this can be a user requesting something, or this can be an automation waiting to disable users. Okay, and then you have multi-stage approval. You have a reviewer, approver, and executor. If you feel that these many levels are complicated, I'd like to keep it simple. You can uncheck too many levels of approvals and then keep it simple. You have a requester, and then you have the executor. Only when the executor says yes to a certain request, the action will take place in Office 365 or an AD. Okay, so please bear in mind, you can create an automation for any task that you wish. Okay, not just for creating users or disabling users. You have at least 30 action items that you can pick and choose from. You can even automate a script. If you want a script to be executed every Monday morning, right, at 8 o'clock, you have this option to select the custom script right here. Okay, you select a custom script, you just include the script, and to prevent the script from doing something that it shouldn't be doing, you can implement the business workflow. Okay, So please think about it. All right. The last part of my session is about delegation here. Okay. Now, let me tell you something. Now, when I talk about delegation, okay, the whole idea of delegation is to minimize the number of administrators that you have in your infrastructure. And for that to happen, we will have to think about a non-intrusive delegation pattern, okay? And the non-intrusive delegation pattern is something that you can achieve with the help of AD Manager Plus. So let me recap the things that we have seen so far. We started off with reports. The application has approximately 200 reports that you can play with, that you can use to manage your users, groups, permissions, whatever. And then the second topic was all about bringing in standardization using templates and how do you integrate AD Manager Plus with other business applications. And the third topic was all about automation, okay? And the fourth topic here is about delegation, which I think is really, really important. And the fourth topic is, and the delegation model that I'm about to suggest for you is the least delegation model, okay? Now, normally, if you'd like to, let's say you have this help desk technician here, okay? And if you want this help desk technician to be able to reset password, or let's say for that matter, you have this HR, okay? Now, if you want this HR to create accounts in Active Directory or Office 365, so what you do is you actually open up the user's account, you go to the member of tab, and then you add a group or add this user to a group, okay? Maybe the account operators or user creation group. Okay? That's an intrusive delegation model. Or you have this another way of delegating things, okay? So you have this OU called the New Zealand OU, and if you'd like to delegate actions to, let's say, users in bulk, you use the delegation of control wizard. So you do a right click, you go to delegate control, and then you have the DOC. You just add a user. Let's say you add the HR user, okay? You hit OK, and then you just hit next. You just select the permission. If you want the user to be able to create accounts or reset password, you just select the appropriate checkboxes here, and then you just move on with the action, okay? Now, these two methods are common methods, but these are highly intrusive methods, okay? Let's see how to make this HR to create accounts in Office 365 and AD with minimal information, with least privileged delegation model, okay? For that, I'm not going to be adding this user to a group, or I'm not going to be using the delegation of control wizard. I am going to be using something called roles inside of AD Manager Plus. And I've already created a role for the HR, okay? You can create a role for super admin, role for a specific action like creating users or resetting password, okay? But I've created a role specifically for my HR, okay? I'm just going to open up the role and show you how the role looks like, okay? A role is nothing but a bunch of actions put together, and you can enable any action that you deem fit for the HR. Now, I want the HR to be able to create one account at a time, and that's why I've enabled one single checkbox here, okay? If you want the HR to be able to do a couple of reports, you just go to the reporting tab and then add the report that you want, okay? Or if you want the HR to be able to do administration, which is highly not practical, so you can just go ahead and enable these checkboxes here, okay? But according to me, this role should be able to create accounts one account at a time, not even create users in bulk, okay? Or no other operations that you see here. After creating a role for the HR, I've named it HR-user creation. After creating a role, the second thing that I have to do is I'll have to map this role to the HR, okay? So I've created a role, and then I go to help desk technicians here. I've added HR as a technician as a part of AD Manager Plus, okay? So you can see that I've already added the HR user as a part of AD Manager, and I've mapped the role. I showed you the role, right? So it's for creating accounts. And I can also restrict the action of this specific account to a specific OU, okay? So you might have, you know, tens and hundreds of OUs. If you want the HR to be restricted to a specific OU, let's say the New Zealand OU, you can even do that by selecting the checkbox, okay? And the most important of all is when it comes to user creation, I told you that AD Manager Plus has lots of templates, okay? There are some built-in templates, and then there are the templates that you are going to create, okay? But how would you restrict the HR to just one specific template that you have already created? Well, you have this assign templates option. So when you open up this, you have all the templates that are there in AD Manager Plus, but you don't want your HR to be able to see all of them. You just want the HR to be able to use one specific template. And how do you prevent the HR from switching templates? Okay, you simply set a specific template as default. You see a small checkbox here, I mean a small tick sign, which says set as default. You just select that, which means the HR will be restricted to only one template among the 50 or 60 templates that you already have. Okay. Now, what I'm about to do now is I'm going to log in as the HR to AD Manager Plus. Okay. Now, I want you to understand something here. I have logged in with the admin account, and that's why I'm able to see all these tabs. Okay. But now I'm going to log in as this user, HR. Okay. Now, I want you to understand that this user is just part of domain users. I've not given this user creation or deletion rights. Okay. But the same user, the same HR user is now going to log into AD Manager Plus. Okay, I'm just going to hit sign out. Now let's try and log in as the HR. Now this is the Windows username and password of the HR. This is the Windows credential. Okay, I'm not typing in an application account. So this is a Windows authentication taking place live, and I hit login, and I'm going to log in as the HR. And you would notice that the UI has completely changed. Okay, you do not have any other option except the option that was enabled for me in the role, which is creating a single user. So when I open the create single user option, when I am going to create a user that was hired in my organization, I have this option to select a template. Okay. Now I am a bit playful in the sense, if you give me an option to choose templates, I would see what's in here. Okay. My administrator, however, has restricted all the other templates, and I have access to only one template, and I cannot switch to another template, even though the tool has 60 odd templates. And this template does not have 100 attributes here. This is a very simple form. Okay. Now, how can this HR, just by filling 3 attributes, create an account in AD, Exchange, and Office 365? I've already showed you how a template works. Okay, so we're going to create an account here. Let's call this user, okay, Kiwi admin. Okay, I'm just trying to create a user account. So I'm the HR. I've typed in the first name, I've typed in the last name of the user, and I select the title of the account. Okay, the title of this specific user is IT administrator. Okay. I told you that a template works based on a condition, and that condition, what I've done as an administrator is I've already created such conditions in this template, and I've delegated this template for this HR. Okay. Now, when the HR hits create, the first name is Kiwi and the last name is admin, and the title is IT administrator. And now the HR has hit create, successfully created the user. Now the user is created in the New Zealand OU. So I'm just going to my AD. I have the New Zealand OU right here. Okay, when I go to the New Zealand OU and I do a refresh, I have the Kiwi admin account. Okay, but let's just check whether this user has all the properties that I wanted. So I just open up the properties. You see that the office is populated, the phone number is right there, the email address is there. When you go to the member of, the group membership of the user is in place, and by this time you have an Exchange mailbox created for the user, and you also have an Office 365 account. Okay. Now let's try creating a technician account. The first one was an admin account. Let's try creating a technician account using the same template. Okay. Now this user is going to be Kiwi Tech. Okay. And the title is going to be, let's say, IT technician. So the first title was IT admin, and now I'm going to switch titles. So one template, multiple job roles. Okay. IT technician. I hit create. It says successfully created the user Kiwi Tech. So let's go to the New Zealand OU and see whether we have the account created. So I open up the New Zealand OU. I just do a refresh and I have Kiwi Tech. You notice the difference in the description field. Okay, I used the same template and I did not key in all these details. It's the template that did all the heavy lifting. So when I open up this user's account and I go to the properties here, everything is populated. Okay, and when I go to the member of, you'll be able to see that there are different sets of groups assigned to this specific user. And if you're wondering whether this tool is capable of auditing the actions done by your help desk technicians, the answer is yes. Okay, let me show you how to audit the actions done by your technicians. So I log in as the administrator. Okay, and then I go to the Delegation tab, and in the Delegation tab, I have something called Audit Report. Now, the Audit Report basically tells me, well, all the actions are listed here. To keep things simple, I'm just going to select the HR, and I would like to see the actions done by my HR in the last 60 minutes. Okay, let's hit go. So it looks like the HR has created 2 accounts. Okay, and you also have the action time here, the timestamp of the action. The first account was Kiwi Admin and the second account was Kiwi Tech. And if you need to know the properties of the user as an administrator, all you need to do is just hit the details. Okay, and you have the properties of the user account getting populated. Okay, now please think about it. One tool, one user interface that can help you perform actions across technology platforms is what you're seeing on the screen. Okay, and that's AD Manager Plus. So just to sum up things, we have discussed 4 topics here. We've seen how to how to do complex reports. We've seen how to bring in standardization using templates and business application integration. We've also discussed about automation. And the last topic that we discussed just before this session was delegation. How do you delegate actions to other users without delegating control or authority, or without touching their native AD or Office 365 permissions? Okay. Now, my session was all about AD Manager Plus, but AD Manager Plus is just one module of a larger suite called AD 360. Okay. AD 360 is one identity and access management bundle that helps you perform a lot of things. Okay. User lifecycle management. It also helps you audit your Windows infrastructure. It helps you with single sign-on, automation, and also it helps you with backup and disaster recovery. And if you want your end users to be able to reset their Windows password, if you want them to be able to perform a password sync, if you want your users to have adaptive multi-factor authentication, contextual authentication, all that is available in one single piece of one suite, which is AD 360. Okay. Now, Sharda, my good friend and colleague, is now going to be talking about password best practices and multi-factor authentication in her session. So if you have any questions related to AD 360 or any of the topics that we just discussed, please shoot out your questions. We'd be more than happy to take your questions. Okay. Thank you very much for your time and patience. Over to you, Sharda.